this is a very unique moment in time where crypto is like very truly going mainstream and breaking into traditional finance, traditional fucking everything. So I think it's pretty clear that this is like the moment to go.
It's time.
So
Time for the crypto ball. It's time for 4 million
I like that.
executive orders from Donald
I,
Trump that are going to send our bags to Valhalla.
I love that we're gonna have some inside scoop on the crypto ball.
So I'm sure it's going to be a bastion of alpha. All right, we're back. Episode 63 of Internet Explorers, where we dive into whatever the hell's happened in this consumer crypto space over the week. And today we're talking to a bunch of builders too, which feels good, man. It feels good when we get the builder energy back on here because I don't know, man. I'm pretty bullish about 2025 and the builders being unleashed. We shall see what the world has in store for us next week.
Yeah, seriously.
That's the Canadian look. Are we going to have an economy next week? Let's see. Could be
Are we gonna have a country? Are we gonna be a part of a new country next week?
We're going to join Greenland and
That'd be
go. That's we won't get into that. It's too good. Some of the reactions and memes around that. Anyways, how we doing, Josh? We're out there on the Twitters tweeting away.
I'm great, man. Yeah, we're tweeting. Got some tweet motivation yesterday, which is always fun. Hanging out in a shitty hotel right now, but glad to be plugged into the internet.
I mean, the wallpaper is sensational.
It's amazing, right?
And we got Peace back on the keys. How we doing, Peace?
Doing good. Hello.
You're hydrated?
I'm hydrated. We've got a jar half full. In fact, yeah. Believe it or not.
I mean, I was purely enamored with like the first 3 tweets you showed us even before we jumped onto the show here. I think it consisted of a woman's foot in a wine glass with wine being poured on it. Smack literally eviscerating Raoul Paul, and then of course the Gloria crypto ball. And I'm like, okay, this could
we're so back. We're so back.
State of the market.
Oh man.
Way better than last week. I liked the timeline this week. It was a nice place.
Yeah, I like it's like I'm always reminded of how many new people are in crypto because you go through a little lull that is like the most bullish thing ever if you've been a part of any crypto cycle in the past where people just you have to flesh out the weak hands and the leverage before we start going higher and yet I think everybody thought last week was over. Well, so a meaningful amount of the trench boys thought the world might have been over as they saw 60-80% drawdowns in their tokens and yet Bitcoin's still at $90,000 or more, and I mean ETH's still at not, but
we're like 105 today. Bitcoin's
I haven't
ripping again
today, so
well you should. It's
cool. We got
nice
show today. We've got some founders coming on to talk about what the hell they've been up to for the last while. It's our opportunity to sort of. It's actually the thing that I was most excited about this week is I feel like this. We've been doing a lot of figuring out. We're sort of loading the spring. We've got some really big plans that we've been teasing for a while, but it always sort of creates a dynamic. I guess when we're trying to make big decisions, where I kind of like reflect on some of the core values or principles or the magic, I guess, of that's always how I describe this whole C-Clip thing. It's just like, how the hell are we here? And this is cool. And how do we go steward it to do good things? And this sort of sense of exploring at the edges, I think, is something that the timeline seems to have been missing out on quite a bit in the last little while. It feels like the entire thing has just been, let's go pump meme coins and who can get the most amount of attention and maybe go, kill yourself in a fucking live stream or whatever, just because the fees, you can pump it up on your followers. And of course, behind the scenes and in the deep dark rooms of the Telegram chats and Discords, people are cooking and building and making things. And I think my one reflection on this right now is just how, and I think I tweeted this yesterday, just how many founders we're talking to and even other investors are saying that these founders are now really going after the core opportunity.
Let's get Dan up here.
Hey,
Dan, what's up, buddy?
How
How we doing, man? Good to see you. Appreciate you jumping on, and I assume you're in London, so an evening in London that is not supposed to be spent in apartments, but we appreciate you spending it in an apartment for us.
All good, guys. Yeah, Friday past 6 p.m. Is very much brain rot territory, but you know, I do it for you guys.
That's perfect. It's where the best insights come out.
Yeah, just let all the guards down. I'm going to speak very fluidly now.
Yeah, it's got it. Yeah, man, excited to bring you on. I think you shared kind of an investor memo late last year, maybe last week actually. Obviously came through one of our recent cohorts and have just kind of been in the fucking trenches, existential crises every couple months. But I think you guys have, you've fought through them. I think you've learned a lot along the way, and I think you've kind of hit a turning point, and things are looking great. And I think to Jess's point about what he was just talking about, I think everyone is so like the timeline is just it's like meme coins and agents, right? And I think it's so easy to just like as someone who's just hanging out on timelines, like just get caught up in that, and it's impossible to make sense of. And I think like fundamentally the biggest opportunities are the things that are going to be most world changing, or the things that are non-consensus and are like out of like they're pre-narrative, or they're kind of out of the limelight. And I think you guys are a great example of that. So excited to kind of dig into all the things you've learned and fucked up and succeeded on over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak for an hour about all the things we kind of got wrong. You guys have kicked like every ball along the way and seen all the crises and everything else. But to that point, for sure, we've been like anti-trend, really. Like we've been just so resolute from the start about ignoring all the noise and building for our specific use case, which, and I would say this, but I think is the strongest, most bullish use case for the utility of crypto. And so yeah, we kind of really starting to think about this just at the end of the last real like ICO summer, the bull run, and that was the start of a number of really difficult kind of decisions that we had to make, like ignore the noise and resist the temptation to lead with the token, because it's super difficult as well to like raise traditionally in our space. So that's just such a big carrot. You're like, okay, I can raise like loads of projects are doing this, just lead with a token. And I can name like 5 or 6 real token pump and dumps in our space that kind of led it, but just really failed to get any kind of ecosystem off the back of it. And I think we really, as non-degens ourselves to start with anyway, we could see that these projects that were like leading with the token just immediately alienating the core users in the crypto and on the supply side with the creators. So, I think fundamental to our mission was championing the rights of those creators. And from my personal perspective, I was looking at the creator economy as pretty broken at the time, especially in the adult side. They've always been adult creators, and adult industry has always been the cradle of innovation at a necessity, right? And so that's kind of what we were seeing. OnlyFans have come and created this new industry, loads of rags to riches stories, everybody viewing it as a kind of great thing for content creators in the industry. But nobody was talking about these really pervasive issues that like it wasn't happening to some or most creators. It was happening to like every single creator had been affected by super high fees, issues getting their money off platform, being kicked off, having to spread their work across 10, 15 different platforms, dealing with really high rates of chargebacks. 2/3 of adult creators have lost a bank account or a payment app. So we were like, if you can solve the core payment challenges using crypto rails, and if you can do it in a way that's as fluid or competitive with Web2 experiences, that's the add-on that we kind of, spent the first year trying to get right. And that's a different conversation. But you can build resolutely, totally focused on solving those challenges for creators, you're going to change the game for them. And that's really what kept us going when we were really struggling to get the tech right and struggling on the other side of the kind of marketplace on the demand side. We were getting such great followings from creators. We had like this real cult-like loyalty that we were kind of cultivating, stemming from the fact that creators kept 100% of their earnings, stemming from the fact that they got access to their money anytime. They were protected from deplatforming. They were protected from chargebacks. it was such a differentiated proposition that it gave us time to kind of get the payment stuff right. And then to your point, kind of February, we really did a big revamp of the platform, launched a new payment system. Finally, I think came up with a really fluid, competitive experience that still leveraged, the crypto rails and allowed us those financial differentiators. And yeah, we went from doing like $500 monthly revenue to like 200K in December. We have about 100,000 monthly users. And now we actually have a much better springboard foundation to like launch a token, off the back of, to really try and deploy into the crypto native ecosystems and communities, which we've seen with like platforms like Friendtech. There is an appetite on both sides of the market for that to happen. We saw like that second spike of Friendtech really came off the back of sex work creators and then their fans following them. It just wasn't a sustainable model. The bonding curve was too steep. It didn't work for them long term. So we know that there's appetite. We know there's potential. We wanted to demonstrate value. We wanted to demonstrate credibility and trust, all things that the adult creative kind of space doesn't have with a lot of crypto projects, and has a lot of cynicism, and there's a lot of skepticism about crypto. So we wanted to demonstrate value, build trust and credibility. And now I think is the time where we're really looking towards a token, looking towards getting more deeper into these spaces.
Yeah, that's great, man. Maybe let's dive in a little more kind of like lower level into some of the, I guess, your journey trying to figure out payments, because I think the like initial insight you guys were building on was so like simple but powerful, and such a great use of crypto and stablecoins. Like the idea that these permissionless financial rails can solve a lot of the discrimination challenges that these sex workers are experiencing. But then actually getting that right was this like multi-year journey that was anything but easy. So do you want to kind of like share some reflections, or ultimately like where you landed, or what you really figured out that has made it finally work?
Yeah, so I mean, I like speaking about the details, I think, because it's where the devil is. I think we started with like very simple. We were going to use fiat to crypto on ramps. We're going to allow people to pay with crypto, and like really naively, I think, just for like, okay, there's 50 different fiat to crypto on ramps we can use, and some of them will be okay with adult, and we'll just find those ones that will work with them. And so like we tried 40 different fiat crypto on ramps over the course of a year, and we were just seeing success rates on payments of like 15% on credit cards and 45% on debit cards. You can't do recurring payments. The actual real-time movement of money from wallet to wallet, creators fan wallet to creator wallet, meant that occasionally fans were having to wait like an hour for a piece of content to get unlocked. And again, given the nature of the space and the need for instant gratification, that just wasn't a competitive experience. So it was really difficult to kind of figure out what to do while still maintaining that we wanted to build it on this tech, this tech, and we wanted to leverage these rails, because traditional payment rails, anything built on Visa, MasterCard, and card network rails, have to use like one of 5 high-risk payment processors that charge super high fees, that have all these trickle-down effects that ultimately trickle down onto the creator. And so what we eventually came up with is we just decided to stop forcing that. We were trading one high risk payment category for another in crypto, and a lot of the American banks particularly just were blocking attempts to purchase crypto at the source. So what we ended up coming up with was a system where, instead of directly purchasing crypto, our users are purchasing credit for USDC on a smart contract, which our payment processor CoinFlow then sends us the USDC. We then pay creators out to either to a bank account, to a debit card, or to a crypto wallet. So in that way, we made it super accessible for the creators as well. They could withdraw to a crypto wallet, they could withdraw to a bank account. We kind of wanted to make the platform accessible for both the natives and the non-natives. Likewise on the fan side, as soon as we had a slightly competitive experience to OnlyFans, to the existing status quo, the floodgates really opened on the demand side. The fans will just follow the creators that they want, and the creators were pushing Mintstars because of the differentiation on their side. That's really where we made a lot of inroads as soon as we got that right.
Yeah,
Is
awesome.
my microphone working now?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I think so much of your last year has been around. I think you're right. Going after a very obvious opportunity. How people have gone after that opportunity in the past, I think, is really burnt trust. And I know, like, a lot of our conversations have been around. I think at least you keep coming back to this: the valuing and respecting and championing the relationship with the creator as number one, as being like the big competitive advantage. And there's countless mistakes other teams have made that I think have actually driven even more people to Mintstars because of I think that consistency and of course the talked about the number of challenges you have to do from a tech perspective. But I'm curious, when you sort of look forward, like, it feels like you've been building up this base, this new platform to go. Is the game plan here to just continue to do what you're doing and know that you're just continuing to eat more and more opportunity, or are there some other big swings that you sort of are excited to be positioned for?
Yeah, it really feels like we've only just got the basics right. Like, it really feels like this kind of last year, this last couple of months is you know, the tip of the iceberg in terms of obviously the total addressable market for currently the space that we're in. But now, as I say, it feels like all we've done is really just lay a strong foundation for which we can build really differentiated tech as well. Because I think that this space, it's probably the consequence of just such a level of market dominance from OnlyFans, that everybody coming in and they see the earnings reports, they see the sheer scale of some of the most profitable companies in the world, and they're just like, right, if we can get 1% of that market share, we're great. That's us, done for the rest of our life. And so I think that there's a real, and obviously all the other barriers to entry in this space for teams, just feel like there's a real lack of innovation. Despite OnlyFans like 30+% growth last year, only 3 or 4% of that was from subscriptions in terms of growth. The rest of it was from chat and tipping and other streams. And I think there is a real need for newer ways and deeper ways for fans to build relationships with the creators that they want to follow, because that's fundamentally why people pay for a subscription versus consume infinite free content online. It's so that they can chat to, interact with, build relationships with these creators. And that is where, now that you've demonstrated it's not a scam, it adds value, you earn more, you keep more, it's safer, you can start building out on some of the crypto components of this platform in ways that you can leverage points and a token ultimately to further engage the fans and to leverage this silent majority of fans, which is 99% of traffic on these platforms, but they're totally anonymous on existing platforms. It's user 71352, and the creators have to figure out who these people are, how to get them renewing every month, how to mobilize that. It's a huge community at their fingertips that's totally nascent, doesn't do anything with. And we already have a kind of resale component on the platform which activates that fans, kind of makes them the distribution network for the creator, more closely aligns the fans and the creators' incentives. And yeah, building out on those things with points and a token, it can further incentivize fans to act as the distribution network for creators, be part of their team, don't pirate their content. And so on that side with the token, I think there's a huge amount that we could unlock and leverage. And then the other part really is deeper into the financial products. And again, our users are so marginalized by TradFi. Once you've built this trust and credibility amongst them, you can really deploy anything off the back of that. And one of the things that I'm really keen on doing, and it's a whole separate market, and I think it's kind of one of the meccas of crypto that we've ended up kind of coming back round to, is realizing we have the we're basically uniquely positioned in this space to deploy things like crypto debit cards, where our users are just desperate to get access to and safely spend their money. A lot of other crypto communities, they don't want to spend their crypto. They don't want to be the guy who bought a pizza for $40,000, or they get access to traditional banking, infrastructure. So this is a group that are in need, that trust us, that, by the way, have huge social media following. So we can put a mint card, a physical card in their hand, and we can, they're tweeting out to their 100K followers that they paid for their gas with this debit card, that they can spend their platform earnings in real time as they're earning it. It changes the game. And I think, a lot of what we talk about when we speak to our creators is that insecurity, that instability, creators earning $50,000 a month demonstrably, who can't get basic loans and lines of credit. One of our creators had a house in Miami flooded and had to take out like a 1,600% payday loan. And we're like, well, we could know that you know traditionally earn 2.5 grand a month on the platform. We could extend you a line of credit, and the barriers to entry in this respect in crypto are a lot lower than TradFi. So that's just one of the many opportunities. I think fundamentally back to my point about deepening the connections between creators and fans. There's so many ways to do that, by gamification, by actual gaming on the platform. Fans, creators can interact in new, novel ways. Yeah, I think there's so much opportunity, and also just in like scale. We have 6,500 creators on the platform now. That is, again, the tip of the iceberg. This industry is obviously growing at such a rapid pace. It's so unseasonal. That's the thing that shocks me all the time about this space. Like Christmas Day was like a bang average day for us in terms of earnings. It's just the market is just, it's so elastic. It's so there. It's there all the time. Feeds into so many macro concepts that are only going to get like male loneliness, people being chronically online, dopamine addiction. It's all feeding into this. And I think this industry is generally quite nascent in terms of, innovation and feeding off the back of that desires on the fan side.
Bang average is such a wonderful
A bang average day.
Criticism.
Yeah, maybe really quickly before we let you go, I'm curious because there's still this like pervasive narrative in crypto that the broader world still hates it, and targeting outside markets is a bad idea. And you guys obviously you had to deal with like on ramp, off ramp issues largely because of this, but like you're targeting non-crypto natives, and and now finally feel ready to target crypto natives. But I'm curious if did you like bump into any of this crypto backlash? Do you have creators who are like, I'm not touching this because it's a crypto platform, or even on like the demand side, like do you have people just saying fuck crypto, or because it's such an acute need and there are just like real obvious benefits here, it kind of helps combat that?
For sure, we ran into it and we had to rethink our messaging like 50 times along the way. And, we really adopt principles that I think other Web3 businesses adopt, like progressive decentralization and really getting the basics right, obfuscating a lot of the messaging, all everything's in USDC on the platform, but you really wouldn't know that it's obviously your price is shown in dollars, and you don't know that you're purchasing crypto when you pay and you top up a wallet. But a really good specific example was when we launched, one of the things that we wanted to do to kind of disrupt and recreate and improve on the existing economic models was we wanted to allow creators to post NFT content alongside their traditional content. I mean, there's huge rates of piracy and very, very low subscription renewal rates on platforms, existing Web2 subscription platforms. The main reason in my mind why that happens is because you subscribe to a creator on OnlyFans for $10.99 a month, and you get access to 1,500 pieces of content, everything they've ever posted on that platform. It removes any incentive to pay another $10.99 next month and get access to 10 more pieces of content, and is a big signal that says pirate that content. So we thought, okay, why don't we allow creators to post NFT style content to their fans as part of a subscription alongside traditional content, or sell it directly as limited edition clips. But as soon as we mentioned the word NFTs, it was like deer in headlights. And I felt, okay, fine, maybe the creators aren't appreciating that, but surely the fans, like it's so obvious on the fan side that you can say to them, if you go out and consume the content that you normally would on other platforms, but you can make money by reselling it on when you no longer want it afterwards. Like, make money while you spend money. It's such a no-brainer concept for me. It just didn't land at all with fans. Fans are like, I don't know, I don't want to. I'm not interested in that. I just want to, get in and get out when I'm on these platforms. I don't want to. None of that value add kind of means anything to me. So we just let fans sort of discover that component naturally. We had a little resale button under a piece of content, and we started to realize that after the fourth or fifth time that they were on the platform, they were experimenting with that. Resales have kind of gone like that on the platform. And so, yeah, we've really had to find the sweet spot between pushing and staying true to the belief that the technology can add utility, add value, add monetization opportunities for creators, but having to do it in a really, really sort of gentle way with sex work at the core to the team as well. I mean, that's something that projects in this space have got wrong. How can you expect adoption from content creators if you don't know how to speak their language? You've got no representation from them on the team. You don't feel like the creators don't feel like they represent you. And so, that was what we were pushing, and that's what we've kind of built in the team. And now it's still very much core. You'll know because we speak about this quite regularly, but that's the big concern for us with the token. We know 50 ways the token will add value for our core users, but also add value, for can find a sweet spot between the degens and our existing user base. We have to introduce it in such a unintimidating way. We have to really explain the narrative to our creators about why and how to use it, and things like creator staking, for example, is a great use case for us and great use case for a token on our platform. However, I think we would have to use frame it in a different way, and frame it in a way that people and non-crypto natives understand without scaring them off. So it's a real delicate balancing act, and I think we've found the line so far.
It's easy for people. I mean, I think like the way that I kicked off the show was, I think, a belief that real businesses are ultimately going to win here, even when it comes to tokens. And I think being able to dive in and watch how teams are making, like what decisions people are making, how they're framing it, et cetera, is going to be a very valuable thing to do. So it's very easy for people to follow along here with you guys. You can go become a subscriber, a member, participate in Mintstars. It's open to anybody. There's some quality content on there if you're into that sort of thing, for all types of people. I mean, it's across the board. So we'll recommend anybody, if you just want to, you have a good excuse if maybe you've been waiting to wade into the adult content world, that you can use it for research. It's crypto research to go subscribe to Mintstars today.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging out with us, Dan.
Well, guys,
continue to be super impressed with your intuitiveness around this, and I think finding the edges is ultimately where you're going to find the big opportunities, and stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah, well, thanks for being a part of it, and thanks for having me. Always good to see you.
My brother.
Peace, dude.
Guys. Bye-bye.
I've been resisting the urge to just share Wayne Gretzky gifs and quotes this week, Josh.
What?
Just because the timeline won't get it. But
what? Like there's just been a bunch of
skate to where the puck is going, baby. Skate to where the puck is going. I think like the timeline is just woeful. Like, yeah, timeline represents the current perception of the current interest. We see this all the time, right? Where there's a big difference between a founder who's building the thing because they want to go build the thing, and the founder that's coming in to build the thing because it's hot and interesting. And 100%, it's pretty easy to think of where the actual values can be created. So yeah, excited about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly. It's like hard to get really excited by anyone who's like just now for the first time starting to think about like an agent launch pad or something, right? It's like, do you have an insight here? Is this like an obsession you've had for a while? And like, what, it's pretty clear that this is, you're seeing the narratives, you're seeing the short-term opportunities here, and you want to go run at that, right? So yeah.
What a goat. The next prime minister of Canada, right?
You think?
That's
not the next, but right. All right, let's get
we can listen to a Canadian politics show just so we can actually introduce some Americans.
We should not. I would be out of my lane. I would be out of my lane. All right, let's get the kid up here.
Yo.
What's up, man?
What's happening, boys? How we doing?
We're just talking about cultural relevance in Canada, leadership.
Is there any?
Oh, yo.
Even the Euro boards are dumping on you, boys.
Every bar that's in the city here is staffed by your countrymen running away and coming to the cultural mecca that is Canada. So
yeah, I don't blame them. I'll be following suit shortly, hopefully.
I mean, the cultural relevance of your country is the Irish pub, I guess, right? But it's great.
That is great. It's consistent piece.
I think it's been severely watered down from my experiences abroad. But yeah, it's 100%. There.
Yeah. Nice, man. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. I think a bunch of fun stuff we can get into here. I think you guys have. Oh, am I freezing? Okay, no, I'm back. Yeah, I think you've been building for a while, kind of just in this like kind of rapid product discovery mode, which we love to see. I think you have some interesting insights into like the kind of future of this like mini app world we're moving towards, and also launched one last week that got some good attention and broke a bunch of things. So I always love hearing the war stories from launches. So yeah, maybe to kick off, because I think this is the first time you're on the show. Maybe just a quick background on who you are and kind of what you guys are working on right now.
Yeah, quick background. Spent about 4 years working on other people's projects, and then last year, Firecaster popped up, and pretty much every idea that felt like it was off the table or should be given up on felt like it was suddenly back on the table. So jumped in headfirst there, shut down any dev agency work, and just spent the last year iterating and shipping on many different products, half of which didn't never see the light of day, with my two co-founders, Eric and Josh. And recently we set up a new company, which is an on-chain entertainment company. And we're extremely focused on everywhere apps and where kind of mini apps, crypto, AI intersect, and why that would be so why that would be so important in a post-AGI world.
Yeah, do you want to talk about? So you guys launched like DGen Gs, which was like kind of the front end like app store for DGen. I think a few other things. I guess like, do you want to? Are there any kind of like high level reflections from those? Those failures or whatever, like lack of traction those things saw that ultimately led to I want to say Pixelmon. It's not Pixelmon.
Clankermon, yeah. Pixelmon
Clankermon.
is another project. Yeah.
Clankermon. Something. Yeah. That led to Clankermon.
Yeah, for sure. I think Jeeves was the most exciting one because it was the first time that I'd ever like shipped something overnight, just put out in the world, and it just kind of ripped because we were perfectly timed at the point where Firecaster had that initial kickoff, where DGen was just becoming a popular term, popular behavior, and frames had just launched. So we caught that wave like super, super early. And that was definitely the one that gave us the conviction to just say, you know what, fuck it, let's figure out what we can do consumer facing this year and stop working on other people's projects. The biggest thing I think from Jeeves was like last year was a real resurgence of community currencies. We kind of had that for a concept for a while. DAOs were probably the one that used them the most back in like the 2021, 2022. But last year we really saw community currencies take off. We saw ERC20s get reintegrated into almost every product in crypto, and we saw people actually having more and more use cases for their community currencies, which is a trend we've pretty much only exacerbated over the past year between Pump Fund's success on Solana and now Clanker kind of running it back turbo with a very ecosystem heavy mindset on base. Which I think is probably going to be one of the most exciting and important things to look back on in a couple of years in terms of like Firecaster builders being enabled to create tokens. More of the people with tokens in the market probably being the class of people that you want to have tokens so that you can kind of not only bet on them, but bet on yourself. And yeah, just very excited to keep iterating, which one of those iterations, our latest one, is Clankermon.
Nice. Yeah. Tell us about it. What's the insight behind it? What's the game like? What do you hope to get out of it?
For sure. I think our general thesis with onboarding people into these entertainment first spaces that happen to be crypto first is that concept of lightly financialized social gaming. So something where you can come in, spend a little bit of time, spend a little bit of money, but have more and more opportunities to win bigger amounts of money, but ultimately more and more opportunities to bet on yourself. Because I think that's the through line in everything, down to like any kind of market. Is yes, you're betting on ideas, yes, you're betting on products, you're betting on communities, you're doing all of it, but ultimately you're betting on your own ability to be right, to compete, and to win. I don't think we've seen that tapped into enough in entertainment. I think entertainment has become a very homogenous, flat, sit down and melt experience where we're just consuming video in different formats and different substrates all day, every day. I think there's a huge room in the market for one, more interactive, but two, not only for like businesses and creators to monetize. I think there's a huge opportunity for users to monetize their own entertainment. And that's something that we're constantly iterating on and trying to figure out what is that recipe, what are those special ingredients. And then Clankermon came along, which started as a silly meme of a Pokemon with like Pokemon type characters generated based off Clanker coins. I was going to be a stupid little mini game and left at that. But about an hour after the token existing, my brain just went, we finally have our own token to integrate into our own products. To not try and execute on something novel and interesting that fits our thesis would be the biggest fumble that we've had in a while, and we have had a lot of fumbles. So the trading aspect kind of removes that initial question mark about what's the initial monetization that fuels game rewards and kind of kicks off that lightly financialized social gaming flywheel. So yeah, the trading aspect, that was like a theory, and very happy with day one or week one even results on that theory, that if you have a gamified progression system that rewards some level of trading activity, that people kind of get behind that, whether they get behind that from a sense of gaming the system themselves to get to a higher point and get further ahead in the game, or whether it's just a nice little dopamine hit that when you do a trade activity that you're getting XP, whether you won money or whether you lost money, you're gaining XP, you're progressing, you're getting further along. I think if we can get that loop right and just multiply what we've done in the first week, that we can create a really sustainable revenue model for the game. And if we can do that with trading fees and create a game that's compelling enough that has some level of financial upside, then we could have a really interesting product on our hands.
So we've seen a number of teams, I guess, even in conversations recently, talk about the power of building on Farcaster first, from especially with their sort of the new frames or mini apps type of structure that they've released. I think there's sort of like a general sense that Farcaster is still very small and maybe not like especially when you compare it to something like Telegram, and yet when we talk to founders, that is actually seen as like a very big plus rather than a negative, especially as you're trying to go figure out the mechanics. And we're building with an engaged small group of people is actually a huge advantage to try to get things right before you kind of go wider. Can you maybe talk a little bit about just like the decision to go build on Farcaster, and then like how you think about, where does the next level of distribution come? Is that coming from Farcaster itself, or are you going to go wider? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, for sure. I think Firecaster is the ultimate place to just ship anything right now. I think if you've been thinking about something for longer than a day and you haven't taken any action on it because it feels like you have to get to point B before you can put it out in the world, Firecaster removes that barrier entirely. I think Colin from Ponder, I seen a clip this morning and it was him talking about it, and he said that a Firecaster user is essentially like a 10x developer. These are 10x users. So like everything that's wrong with your product, these people can directly contact you. There's this constant social context available everywhere, where if I see an issue, I can fix that issue, click a button, and instantly DM those 7 people personally from my account. That's a level of like customer support that you could never actually get to before. So that's one thing. I think Firecaster is going to explode at some point this year. I think there's going to be probably a couple of independent apps that just say, fuck it, we're not waiting for the one super app social feed thing, and just create an app in their vertical, create Firecaster accounts on the way in, and socialize on-chain data. I think we're just going to see one person successfully execute that, and then we're going to see tens, if not hundreds of people attempt something similar. And at a later stage, these kind of aggregator apps, which Warpcast is kind of the aggregator app right now, I think we'll see new classes of them emerge for different subcultures and different demographics and be super, super successful.
So are you sort of seeing like your big opportunity here being like the gaming focused vertical of that? And I'm curious, like what the dynamics that would go into making that, like going from the 0 to the 1 and making that happen, because it seems like most folks have taken like the client, or at least like the previous sort of batch of experimenters were trying to build clients to almost compete with Warpcast. And I think that seems like a very challenging thing to go do. I buy your point of view here that this sort of open social graph infrastructure, when applied maybe to a more specific category, could really be a big opportunity. I think the how do you go from here to there is a big open question. And even is that the sort of the big opportunity that you're running at?
Yeah, I think mini apps just generally at the minute are the opportunity, and then everywhere apps kind of expands beyond mini apps to also include agents. These new products that kind of defy gravity in the sense of the traditional development and product release cycles. If you compare the App Store and the 40 to 80,000 apps that get published there every month, and how many of them make it into the home screen and daily habits, probably 8, maybe 10. This is a whole new category of app platforms that is still in this first inning. Like last year was the biggest year ever for mini apps, and this year will be the biggest year ever for AI agents. And wherever the two of those intersect, by 2026, I think we're going to see the emergence of like these hypergraphs that are special purpose apps that connect different graphs from different social platforms together, create their own. And then I think some of those will go on later to be their own mobile app when they've built up enough leverage to break out of that big pack of 40 to 80,000 apps and make it into that 8 or 10 right off the bat by leveraging the distribution they've already established on all of these other apps.
Okay, hypergraph. That
Yeah.
is. Do you make that up, or is this the part a language that's sort of emerging from the scene? That resonates
I
with
like
me.
coining things at the minute, so like that's just something I threw out when I started thinking about the distribution. It was actually Farcade, and massive shout out to the stock bros. They're crushing it on like everything that I believe in. So when I seen what Farcade was doing, you've got this app store level distribution inside a mini app that's in multiple different platforms. You've got vertical and horizontal integration happening at the same time. It's literally distribution in superposition. It's quantum distribution. It's not.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, okay, all right.
I'll take it. I'll take it. I
I'm
like
probably gonna steal
that.
that.
Yeah, sweet. Go for it.
Good that we have this recorded here, so it's the proper it's yours here.
If this
Uh,
episode doesn't get posted, I know why.
Well, it might get posted just minus a few minutes, right? Like, hopefully you're recording locally. All right, man. We probably got to let you go here. I do like that hypergraph. I mean, that fits probably just because it's actually fitting into a lot of the ways that we're seeing. And this is probably the influence of Nicholas, who's very much influenced by the emergence in Farcaster as well, right? Just this where mini apps ultimately fit in this sort of broader strategic thinking around how distribution happens, where aggregation happens here, and I think it's thinking through like what the second order effects of that are really interesting, because I think there's one way to like the early ones right now are, if we sort of look at what's happening in Telegram and Notcoin or Hamster Combat or these sort of things, they sort of did this thing and then like launched a token, and now we're trying to kind of be that version of almost like App Store ish. I just don't think they've done a really great job of that. I'm not sure if that's sort of like a positioning or execution or a focus thing, or if it's just a timing thing, etc. But I think this idea of I think a hypergraph is almost like the aggregation point for your ability to go into these other networks, deliver value, have a strong enough value prop, and then ultimately if you can continue to deliver in the sort of core narrative and opportunity, I think that gets pretty exciting. All right, I mean, we've been watching Peace here level up his Mon 885.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I mean, Clankermon's it's where can people go play around with this? I think direct us to
So
somewhere.
probably my account on Faircaster is the best place to keep tabs on what we're up to, or on Twitter. So this is Matthew Fox on both. Clankermon signups are currently paused while we rip out some of the plumbing from last week.
Classic move.
New
Classic move.
So if you're not in the unofficial beta, I'm sorry. The official beta will resume taking on players next week. Hopefully Monday is what we're aiming for right now. But yeah, just check us out on Firecaster. I will be subtweeting about it on Twitter until we're in a point where we can go take over Twitter. But yeah, until then, probably my handle.
I do love this dynamic, but I guess Clanker was probably popularizing of actually the bot going to sleep or the pausing of signups. It feels like the community likes it, or like nothing better than being like, hey, this is this awesome thing that we're doing. We're pushing the edges of stuff, but you can't have it yet.
Yeah.
Kind of
Nail on
works.
the head. Nail on the head.
All right, Matthew, appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, and look forward to finally being let into your beta at some point.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, boys. All the best.
Peace, man.
Like we should actually lean into that more, like the pause as like a
Yeah, I saw someone else that like when they built their agent, they like strictly gave it like 9 to 5 working hours, which I thought was funny.
A friend of
So,
mine and I
you know,
used to always joke about that because it's like it's actually insane the unpaid labor that we do for Meta at all hours of the day. We wanted to like strike and demand for closing hours because it's fucking insane. We're getting fleeced out here with our attention.
How are you out here tweeting about mainnet and 24/7 markets, and then wanting to have 9 to 5 hours on Facebook?
I don't know there's connective tissue there. Those are related. It's because it's Ethereum's organic.
And it's ours rather than theirs.
Exactly. Every fee I pay, I'm pumping my own bags.
Man, I tried to go do a mainnet transaction the other day, and it was like a $60 fee to swap on Uniswap because people are trying to get out of there. People are dumping, and it just brought me back, man. It brought me back to the good old days.
It's so funny how normal that felt. Like it's wild that we were just like, yeah, of course you have to pay $100 to transact in crypto.
I don't know if that felt normal. Yeah, I guess it was normalized.
I mean, pretty quickly it did. It did. I mean, it didn't matter because you're like, or like the gas races of like minting new NFT projects, like all that
for sure. Yeah.
All that shit was just.
I wasn't willing to spend 10 grand on gas to get a Fidenza, which turned out to be a huge mistake. But
I mean,
yeah.
In Coinbase's order books, whatever, on that dip to 91,000, those fees got pretty damn high there as well. I was pretty surprised. It's just
on base.
You buying more Mothercoin?
Yeah, big time.
Love that for you, dude.
Yeah.
Don't spend it this time.
I won't.
Gotta lock it away.
Yeah, I'm gonna lock this one up.
All right. Mega rounds are back in crypto. Phantom raises $150 million at a $3 billion valuation. And Josh goes, why? Why?
I think there are a handful of things we can talk about here. I think actually the like Phantom origin story to today is actually pretty interesting and insightful. I think, yeah, why raise when you have $170 million in revenue and that's growing rapidly, I think is another interesting question. So yeah, we can start there. And I think, yeah, but that was my initial reaction. I was like, we've been talking to a handful of teams recently who, are thinking about raising, then revenue starts kind of, growing pretty rapidly. And they're like, oh, we actually don't need to do this and can be, own our own destiny and not have to go play those games. And I think in many cases that makes a lot of sense. So I think it was knowing how much money Phantom's making, that was kind of an easy reaction to have. But I think ultimately, like the more I thought about it, I think the wallet opportunity is so massive, and they clearly see this. Like this is a very unique moment in time where crypto is like very truly going mainstream and breaking into traditional finance, traditional fucking everything. So I think it's pretty clear that this is like the moment to go spend as much money as you need to like win markets, acquire whoever you need to go do that. And I think they probably see this next year as being just critically important to kind of kick off the network effects that are probably going to carry them for the next 10 years. And I imagine a ton of this is acquisition, marketing spend, probably obviously some hiring and stuff, but
yeah, I think you start to see these things. If you think about them in the terms of the crypto world, and the fees that are generated, I think that's maybe a fair reaction. But I think if you look at the competitive landscape that they're kind of stepping into, like they're competing with banks, with PayPal, with Facebook, with all these others who are going to, I think that's the thing that we're probably not identifying like how much of a limitation this just sort of regulatory limitations have put on what crypto can be. And
Mhm.
you know, if we start putting this app into the bucket of even Coinbase, really, frankly, right? And you think about the scale and potential that comes there. Like there will be,
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to me that a wallet like this could go be a very valuable public company in a way that, you know, like a Uniswap or, you know, the Radiums or whatever, which is far more crypto native and comes with a bunch of other maybe challenges associated with it from a user or regulatory sort of framework. That these are sort of, yeah, huge opportunities that are going to require a ton of capital. And
Yeah.
you know, if you think of the wallet as maybe like the home screen for how people are engaging in the on-chain world, I think we'll probably see a race to aggregate a whole bunch of other features in there. And I think you're very right that the acquisition game here is going to be big, though. Yeah, and I guess we really haven't seen the world where tokens are used as an acquisition tool in the same way that you see equity and
being used. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's just again a feature of like the world that we've been coming through, because I think clearly I've seen those experiments in the past, and I think we'll see them come back again. But I think this
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense, and I'm curious about the origin story because I didn't have a chance to go in. I think you shared in our curated chat yesterday a chat that Jesse from Variant and the founder of Phantom had back in the day. And I guess part of the story is probably looking for some liquidity for some of their early employees as well who've been building for a while. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I could see that as being.
I mean, you could launch it. They could launch a token. I mean, part of it is I also wanted them to launch a token, and I feel like this maybe put some more on the IPO track than the token track, and you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the origin story. I mean, really, like the thing that made Phantom was ultimately they made a huge bet on Solana in 2020 before it was anything, and ultimately, I think where they got there was, you know, we're in ETH for a while, and ultimately, I think didn't disliked or, you know, felt kind of disenfranchised with the kind of dogmatic approach to building that, you know, they saw exist there. MetaMask already had huge market share. I think he mentioned seeing BNB, Binance Smart Chain, kind of emerge and then get pretty high conviction that we were going to move into this kind of cross chain world pretty quickly, and wanted to go build basically like the cross chain MetaMask competitor, but recognize like how huge market share and how dominant MetaMask was and well established MetaMask was within ETH. So to actually like go effectively take on MetaMask, they had to go find a home base somewhere else that they could like be, you know, the leader in, and, you know, acquire users in, and kind of attack from that position of strength. And I guess ultimately, yeah, in 2020 kind of decided that was Solana, and, you know, the rest is kind of history, right? Because I think for a long time, like I think, you know, it's pretty easy to say today that Phantom is a better product than MetaMask, but for a long time it was just the MetaMask of Solana, and the thing that, you know, was driving a ton of its usage was the fact that it was the go-to wallet on Solana and was riding the growth of Solana, and obviously like contributed a lot to it as well. So yeah, I think it's interesting how just like betting on an early chain that ultimately has success has been a big part of the story here.
To me, it all comes back to new asset issuance, right? Because like, why are people going to, like, why did I go sign up for Phantom? It wasn't because I'm like, oh, I hate MetaMask. It was because there was a whole bunch of assets over there that I was really excited to go participate in, that I needed a Solana wallet, and this was just by far the best one. And so it's interesting to think about, like, yeah, how I think we've seen on the timeline, like how important betting on the right chain and how detrimental betting on the wrong chain can be. And I think this is a big topic of conversation for a lot of founders right now, as we're seeing, you know, like these hyped up new launches that have yet to materialize yet. And I think there's sort of this intuition that betting on the right chain there and being like a dominant app at launch is going to be a big advantage to teams. And also there's still a ton of uncertainty around how to go make that bet and whether it's the right bet, etc. And, you know, I think we saw this last cycle. We watched everybody launch on you know, Avalanche or Phantom, etc. And I think it was maybe from an ETH perspective at that time, it just looked kind of ridiculous for that. But clearly, if they had bet on Solana, you know, and bet on a different chain that actually won, I think there's clearly a big opportunity there. So shout out to these guys.
It's interesting because like at the time, it would have been pretty easy to say, why would you go build on Solana? There's no users there. Everyone's on ETH. go build there and try to eat into MetaMask's market share, and there's just no way they'd be in the position they are today if they did that.
Well, and many such products, and even VC firms, frankly, you think about Multicoin as a firm is
100%.
synonymous with Solana, and at a time when it clearly wasn't. And even Dudas out here right now, just making such a big bet on Solana, even in the last bear market, has seen the same sort of benefit. So it seems like a lot of opportunity. It comes down to the decision of where do you want to go spend your time. I mean, I still think that like the way that you hedge your bets on that is you actually go and build something that it is for a cross-chain world, but I think you do give up on like the rabid fan base that is potentially necessary to ultimately make meaningful traction there. It's like if we are building something that is across all these different chains, and somebody is just making a full-on bet on the culture of a chain, like those people are probably going to be seen as more favorable by the community, and that's why they have an advantage. So I don't know if or when that.
I think it's just a.
Oh, did we lose him?
Hotel Wi-Fi gets us at the 58th minute.
Damn.
Look at him. I wish it was a better face that he was frozen on.
I love Phantom. They're like the Snapchat Cash App or something. Like maybe that's just the ghost that makes me feel that way, but it's just so easy to get money, spend money. Like it feels awesome.
Yeah, I think it feels like a meaningful improvement from MetaMask for sure. And are you still a Rabby user? Piece
on my computer, I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we have so much fragmented usage here. It's interesting. It's not just chains, but it's also OSs.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are you freaking out about this TikTok ban piece? I know you're a big TikTok user. You got your huge following over there on TikTok.
I'm my huge following. Yeah. I'm not, I don't believe anyone anymore. I don't believe anything. It's not good. I'm like the Chud Jack meme. I'm like, nothing ever happens. It's like things happen, but like there's no way they're gonna ban that app.
Ooh. Oh.
You think
I don't know. I think I take the other side of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. But I don't understand. I mean, I guess I don't fully know the details. I mean, I saw that this morning it's being whatever. The Supreme Court upheld the ban. Biden's not going to do anything for 2 days. They're going to let Trump deal with it or something. But like, I don't understand how that makes sense in the context of all this Red Note usage. They're not going to ban Red Note. So what are they banning?
Well, okay. Probably a bigger topic to get into. I've been nerding out over this for quite a while.
Right.
I mean, I think that like people are underestimating the national security drive behind this, which I think is big and actually meaningful and probably correct. And I think the big difference between Red Note and TikTok is that Red Note is very much not an international business. It's sort of an app that's focused on the Chinese market, and they don't have U.S. operations, et cetera, and therefore sort of out of the reach. And I think all the people that I sort of trust from other China takes think that there's actually a bigger risk that Red Note probably just stops making itself available on global app stores because of the challenge of actually censoring and sort of managing global users on their app. And so even people going so far as thinking that it might have been like a LARP by other competitors to try to force them into a bit of a challenging position. So we'll see what that ultimately turns out to. But I think people are underestimating like the global security concerns or I guess realpolitik that is coming into these social networks. And I think it's not the Gen Z user that even shows any sort of awareness of that, but it is like the old guys in the government that are ultimately going to make that decision. And I think you see that across, electric cars, and you saw that in like your Wi-Fi routers being potential, spy units and stuff like that. And so I think this is going to be one of the defining, quote unquote battles of the next decade here, as you start to see, the impact of technology, the impact of the Chinese economy, and the sort of political disagreements start to hit things that we use, and so I take the other side of it, but we shall see. I think all bets are off as to what happens next week, man. Like, I don't know.
All that stuff has been hilarious. Just seeing like Americans going to Red Note and like apparently like Duolingo is like their usage is surging on the backs of people trying to learn Mandarin to like understand what's happening in Red Note. I don't know where that like where is the motivation to like do you just need a Chinese social network that badly? Like why are people going to Red
Oh,
Note?
it's an anti-establishment thing, right? It's sort of like this, like people have,
It's just like a fuck. Yeah, okay.
yeah, and it's sort of like, young people feel that the government doesn't get them, and you've invested a ton of time and energy, and you have an asset here, which is your distribution channel that's being taken away from you by these old dudes that don't get it, and when they're questioning the CEO, they just look like a bunch of like worse than boomer idiots, right? And so I get it. I think what's interesting is like, you're probably not going to have a good time if you're living under the Chinese censorship regime. And at the same time, I think it's like so good. Like if one of the byproducts here is that you actually have conversations with people that are being demonized by media, and you realize, oh, there's actually a lot more similarities than differences. Probably a really good thing. But I think that probably happens more on chat apps or in DMs more than it's going to happen on a media distribution network like TikTok or Red Note or whatever. All right, we're almost out of time, but I feel like this sort of ICO thread here is actually super relevant. It's definitely come up in our thinking quite a bit. So I wonder if you want to introduce that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think obviously ICOs and community fundraising is very back with all the regulatory tailwinds everyone's feeling, and there are actually a few pretty good threads this week kind of touching on it. So Regan from Lattice had a good one, just sharing some insights from his time at AngelList and CoinList. So he kind of talked through how just like AngelList syndicates kind of like not invented community fundraising, but very much like brought it into the limelight and worked so well compared to kind of other equity crowdfunding methods that worked before, because they built a model that was still like lead centric. So you still get the credibility and support benefits of an influential person giving you like the stamp of approval while also getting the benefits of raising from a network of people. But he kind of talked about how it 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 was ultimately just continued to have this like adverse selection problem, because there's way less incentive and benefits of doing a community round when you're building like a SaaS product or really like anything in Web 2. So like all the actual good deals would just continue getting done by big name brand firms, because they wanted that stamp of approval. There's no real benefit from raising from a long tail of people. So it's kind of just like battling for the long tail of deals ultimately, and he didn't really seem to suggest that AngelList syndicates like really had any kind of form of product market fit, and ultimately most of their money now comes from just like helping funds like manage operations and stuff. And then he talked about launching CoinList out of AngelList and how much like immediate PMF they had. Like Filecoin was like the first customer they had, and first deal they had. Obviously that did very well, and it was just obvious that raising from community was just so core to the ethos of crypto and important for network and ecosystem building. And obviously all the retail investors wanted it, and all the projects wanted it. And then once this was like I think 2017, and then obviously bear market hit, and everything slowed down. And by the time the next market picked up, there was enough kind of like regulatory attention on crypto that basically all lawyers were advising against doing ICOs or community rounds. So then that kind of just died down again. And we all know the impact that has had on VC and private rounds kind of capturing the majority of value, and then leading to like airdrops being the method of community fundraising. But really like the amount of value that was going to retail investors was dramatically lower. And then just ultimately talks about how kind of like aggressively the winds are shifting back now. And I've been hanging out on Echo, and a lot of good deals coming through there. They sell out instantly. Like there's tons of demand on both sides for this. I think so many founders we're talking to now are like pretty unanimously, like alongside raising VC rounds, like want to leave an allocation open to go do rounds on Echo. We're obviously seeing projects launch tokens on Pump.Fun. We're seeing kind of more kind of creative ICO NFT based kind of fundraising strategies. So yeah, I think community fundraising is clearly back. I think he predicts at the end that like over 50% of like very credible teams raising money probably by end of year are going to do echo rounds or community rounds alongside it. And I don't know, I'm very excited about that, because I think I think it really just like blends the benefits of, you know, raising from long term capital, which I think is very important, but also allows, you know, you to pull in your community and give them skin in the game and kind of reward the early people that are there, which I also think is critical.
Yeah, I agree with all that. My big question is, do we see, like, what is the impact of this on airdrops? Because I think airdrops are really the thing that kind of, you know, one was a result of the regulatory limitations that existed, and then two, I think you know, have a lot of challenges to them, right? Like really great at getting attention for a moment. Most people just dump your token right away, and you're sort of seeing like this, like uh, a lot of like the sort of, you know, the sex listing plus airdrop sort of dynamic is a down only chart for some period of time until it sort of finds its bottom. And I think, you know, one of the things that we've talked about quite a bit is like, what do you want your chart to look like, right? Is it sort of like, do you want your long-term holders to sort of see something, value in their wallet, and then that value go up, or do you want to see somebody you know, your best longest term supporters see a huge amount in your wallet and then it only going down? And really the mental math there is like, oh, I should probably sell this on day one if they're doing it. And I think, you know, Pudgy and Pengu is sort of an example here, and, you know, Hyperliquid being that on the other side. And I think embedded in this is sort of like the idea of, you know, how are you almost like increasing the cost basis of new believers coming into your token network, and like the strength that comes from people actually committing capital at a price with the belief that it's going to be more in the future. And so I think it's going to have a big impact on how teams think about distributing their token, and especially if they can feel comfortable with doing a more community round or a token only round or a launchpad round in some way, or even a series of them. Um, which, you know, to be clear, I think we're not walking into a world where we don't have securities regulations. You know, like I think that is the wrong take to take from sort of the change in regulatory regime that we're seeing. But it definitely, regardless of where that ultimately lands, there's a lot more teams that are comfortable stepping into further out on the risk curve and how they do it. And I think it's going to change probably for the better how we think about launching tokens, how we think about building value in token networks. And we'll probably see a decreased emphasis on airdrops and an increased emphasis on creating new opportunities for people to come in early and participate.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for more exploration there too, because I think that's, you know, I love Pump.Fun. It has a great purpose, but being long term minded and launching your token there makes no fucking sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to list off all the reasons, but so I think
that's the world where
yeah,
pump fund tokens make sense is if you believe in a world where there might be multiple tokens in and around your project, where you sort of have like I don't have a strong conviction on this, but where you kind of have like the community alignment moment and excitement to see if there's a there, and that a lot of these teams are going to need to think about how to shift as this current meta dies off, as it will at some level. The market will, you know, eventually not be hot in the same way. And I compare it a lot to NFTs, right? And if you think about the teams that have really done well in both the NFT era, which I think was a very community fundraising, meme coin-esque type of dynamic, and have sort of been able to come through the bear market and come out super strong, they have done so by introducing new assets, introducing some infrastructure, thinking about different stuff. And so I think that, to me, that's where a pump fund type of dynamic works, or that they're able to build some associated business that drives a lot of value, kind of like what we saw with the bonk bot and some of the financial aspects around it. But I think if you're trying to set yourself up to build a valuable token network over time, you know, finding out how you can get long-term money in, finding out how you can get community money in, thinking about how tokens can be used as incentives over the long run, all these things are just challenged by doing a pure meme coin launch. And
I mean, it doesn't capitalize you. It's not getting tokens into the, you know, the right people's hands. You know, you're just kind of spraying and praying into this like degen audience. You're not holding enough tokens back for future development, ecosystem initiatives. So I think it's a good point. It's like, is this like a test asset you're launching into your ecosystem that you're ultimately gonna kind of launch more assets into, or like rectify with kind of a core like umbrella asset and reward people who have, you know, been there and holding over time. I think that can make sense, but yeah, launching your core asset there does not make any sense to me.
The chasing of attention is very much a worthwhile thing to go do, because that's core to sort of the you know, if I continue to believe that meme plus mechanism are the ultimate pieces that you need to figure out to go build a long-term, you know, token network value. And you can't forget either. And so
Yeah.
you need to be able to get that attention, and it's probably valuable to go run an experiment in whatever the current meta is around that. And also, I think a lot of builders or teams, or maybe the broader market, we see it less this time, but the sort of immutability of crypto and of smart contracts and tokens, I think, has done a lot of disservice to how people think about things, because it's sort of very unlikely you're going to get it right to start. And really, you have a lot more flexibility to go and make those changes, assuming your community and your believers are sort of alongside you, and you have the social capital to go do it. So, all right, we're well over time. Lots else we can get into. We'll push to next week. Who knows? I mean, next week's show is going to be super easy to get through, I'm sure, as we see.
It always is. It always is.
Do we talk about a Bitcoin reserve?
I remember the bear market days. I was like, what the fuck are we going to talk about this week? Like, trying to scrap together topics. And now I'm like, I open my computer for 10 minutes and have 15.
Yeah, my bookmarks are expanding exponentially here. All right, let's leave it at that. Episode 63, Internet Explorers. We'll be back again next Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We might be white knuckling the week next week, so hold on tight, ladies and gentlemen. Also, we have Cheryl and LDF on the ground of the crypto ball tonight, which is good. I mean, yes, it's going to be a thing. So, right, Snoop Dogg is going
Snoop's
to.
gone. Yeah.
They're on the train. They're vlogging on the train. I'm getting updates here in the Telegram saying they're vlogging. So yeah, could be fun. So give Cheryl a follow here, and I'm sure we'll see like a wonderful mix of cringe and hopium coming out of the crypto ball tonight. So I wish them well. All right. Well, we'll see you next week, and until then, good luck out there.
Peace.
Internet Explorers.